Gloves here, and today I want to talk to you about what goes through my mind when I sit at the piano and why you should consider learning piano as a producer. It's a very useful skill. One of the most useful reasons to learn piano is its ability to just immediately create something on the spot in the area of what you were thinking of doing. Like if you want something mean or evil, you might come up with some dark thing. That wasn't particularly menacing, but it gets the vibe of a lot of like sort of, I don't know, grisly hip hop tracks. Maybe you want something sad. Well, that's pretty easy to do. Maybe toss some, higher end, play with some higher notes, bring some chords down, stuff like this. So you might be going, what goes through my head? I'm doing an awful lot. So there's a number of things just playing the piano and practicing that have allowed me to just come up with things. And you hear I still hit wrong notes, so maybe work on my scales a bit more. But largely, I think in the key, and I think what is a useful chord progression in that way, and then are there cool modulations that could happen? So for example, if I'm working in C minor, I know the one chord is going to be really important. So I go, okay, C minor, the one chord, that's pretty interesting. And I also know that there's the parallel C major that could probably give me some interesting options. So I might start on C minor. And I might be going, well, okay, you just hit like a chord there, but there's like a lot of chords. This isn't just, just C minor. You got a lot going on here. Well, what I'm doing is I'm distributing the chord in a fashion I think would be interesting. I'm thinking of perhaps a melody. I think it would be a cool thing to go with it. So I play down here a little rhythmic pattern. So down here I might be going. Something like that, right? And then on the top hand, I might go. So that's kind of a cool thing. So I jump to the 5. 5's a really easy place to go because it's one of the most powerful chord moves you have. So we go from the C minor chord to the G minor chord, that's a 5 chord. So I might do that at the beginning. So in this case, you see me sort of moving my hands up the piano. I'm just breaking the same chord up. And the way I learned how to do this was I would play a chord, and then I would play alts inversions, going up the piano with both hands one at a time. And I would also go. So I did that for all the chords and all the all the triads and all their like augmented, minor, major, diminished. That was a weird order to say them in though. So I might go without hitting a wrong note. Maybe back to the 1, but this time color it with a low end. And so I think, hey, this is where I'm sitting. Maybe I could go somewhere interesting like the 4 chord. Back to the 1, maybe I'm having this like thought process, this reminiscent conversation in my head. Maybe to an A flat chord, which is the 6. E flat. And then I can invert very easily to a 5 chord just by moving my thumb down. So that's a really easy inversion. So I'll pull to 5. And then you want to hit a D. I'm explaining all this as I go, so it's a little bit like, oh, there's a lot going on. And then back to the 1, right? So the 6 to the 4 minor. 5. Now I might toss a melody. To the 3. so we got an interesting setup here. So I could go to the 7, a lowered 7, which is really sort of an interesting place. And it plays the role as sort of a dominant function, so it pulls really nice back to the 1. Now I favor chord progressions that have closer inversions. So there I went the 1 chord, and my hand, the way this hand's sitting, is really close to the 6th chord and 2nd inversion, and then I can push it to 1st inversion by just hitting the bass note down here. A lot of times when I talk about upper triads and their inversions, I'm talking about it only with this hand, and that happens when you think as a piano player. And then the bass, you know, that's happening down here, but I don't consider that part of the inversion this hand's hitting. So when I speak of inversions, that's why I talk about it that way. Now let's say we could do a more familiar key, maybe some of you guys are better at, like D major, right? 2 sharps. So I say, okay, let's say we want to make something sort of dramatic in D major. So we say, okay, well, a dramatic song, we could go from, let's say we want to feature the 1 chord going to the 3 chord. Let's say that's something we really want to think about and have like maybe a melody up here, and we'll break the chord up with this hand. So that's a 1-3 progression. So 1. And then we could go 4. And then to make it sort of sad or more intense, I'm not really sure what the word is, we could go to a 6, which most people would expect us to rise up to the 5. So this would be sort of a surprising move. We want a minor 6, and we're in, so it's going to be B major. And then we could go to the 5. So we've delayed the 5th, which is a really, really nice thing to do. So we say, okay, let's do it again. This time I'll talk a little less. So hopefully you can hear what I'm sort of thinking of. I'm like, oh yeah, 1, and then back to the 5, or the 4 in this case, down to the 3. 3, 4, 5. And then I tossed in a little, what is this, the 7? You know, I don't always know exactly what I'm doing, and then we go back to D. So they say, wow, that's really cool, and then as you get better and you think of these progressions, because you might start out really simple. So like in C major, we do something simple like C major down to, you know, let's say for now we're all root position. So we go C major to G major to F or whatever. And then as you get better, you start to use inversions. So you go like, so we might begin to dress things up with arpeggiations. And then as you get even better, you might be able to do stride or a waltz of some kind. So with the same chords. Now you of course probably want to play more intense music, so you might do something in the minor with the minor chords. So you might do A. It's really easy to do A, F, G. That's like a go-to for like very for new people, like because it's so easy to think about. So F, A, hit the right notes. G. Now if you really want your music to sort of pull more, you might add a 5 chord to it. So that'd be an E major. And in this particular case, because you're playing in the key of A minor. So you would say, okay, let's toss in a 5 chord. So we'll go A, Now, I like to do this chromatic movement up because I think it sounds cool, but, you know, do whatever floats your boat. There's another sort of cool trick that I've been adding to my repertoire. Thinking in keys is sort of still, every now and then it gets me. But if we were to play in a really simple key, like a A minor, in fact, I like thinking in C minor for this. So in C minor, we'd have these notes, right? So I'm thinking, okay, here's C minor, and I'm going to use the Neapolitan 6 chord. And the Neapolitan 6 chord is if you go up and a 1 key, so a half step, and make a major chord. This is a Neapolitan 6 chord, but it's a 6 chord, so it has to be in first inversion. So it sounds like this. So we go from 1 to 6. And this chord is called the predominant function chord. Actually, it's also got some weird applications, not weird, but jazzy applications with the tritone sub. But if we pull this up, it pulls to the 5 chord of whatever you're in. And if we're playing tonal harmony, it should be, I guess some people I've heard call it classical harmony. I guess that's a thing too. But where school I go to, we call it tonal harmony. The 5 chord should have a raised third, so it should be a major 5, not a minor 5. Otherwise, technically, it's modal. So the chord progression would be 1, Neapolitan 6, 5, 1. So if we were to arpeggiate it, maybe do some cool things with it, we could go. So I'm an alright piano player, like I can think of things, but when I'm playing and I'm just improvising, a lot of these things are going through my head. I just thought I'd share some of this. If you're interested in more of this, let me know. I mean, there's a number of other things I play. I get really into, if you learn a piece, I mean, I really think you ought to have fun with it. I think a lot of people, they learn a piece and they're so stuck to the notes on the page, they never dare to hit a wrong note, right? So I'm okay with hitting wrong notes every now and then in the name of having fun with a song you've learned. So take, for example, I learned this one a long time ago. And I thought, wow, that's such a cool, interesting opening phrase. And he's got this nifty hand movement position technique, because it's the same technique as you scroll up the piano, if that makes any sense. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could make my own music using this idea, you know, improvise on it. And so to me, that's like when you really learn a piece, you take away pieces of that piece and it affects how you play the instrument after that. So for this example, I could go like, I don't know, something like this. I lost my train of thought there. Anyways, go. Something like that. I don't know. You heard a number of wrong notes. You go through these weird things. You hit unusual strides where you're like, well, that was a series of really bad sounding chords. But you oftentimes will come up with things in the middle that are actually pretty cool and you can use. And I feel like that's a valuable thing to experience at a piano as a student, is to experience this act of self-discovery, this act of like, wow, this really doesn't sound good, but if I keep going at it, I can find stuff that sounds pretty cool. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.